Hey guys, we are on the scene for another monthly update with Dangerous Doug Harper out there in the Nevada music scene. So what's going on out there in Nevada, Missouri
Well, Nevada's
today?
still
Today,
here
because
today.
yeah,
Well, there's not much going on today for me, but there
yeah,
might be
yesterday
something.
you killed it at Gailey's.
Yeah, Gailey's was amazing yesterday, and I'm just taking it easy recovering today for sure.
Hmm.
We had the new song come out, yesterday, and then of course debuted it there, and that's Farmers Market, and I'm envisioning a video in the future for that one, like going to the farmers market and like taking some feed, but so I don't know if I'll get that done this summer or not, but it would make a lot of sense if I could get that done ASAP, but who
Yeah.
knows? But yeah. Yeah, Springfield's amazing. It felt good to be back. I was just in and out of town, of course, like I'm always, but it was a good treat
And
and
this is your
Gailey's
first
is
time playing here in Springfield in how long?
15 since 2015, so it's
Oh
been a
my
decade
gosh.
on the mark.
Wow. Where'd you
Yeah.
play here 10 years ago?
My last gig in Springfield was Nathan P. Murphy's. Other than I did come and do your show. So
Yeah.
but it
Well,
wasn't
other
like,
than, yeah.
a
I used to
venue
work at
venue.
Nathan P. Murphy's.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And you were there that night, and I
that,
actually, well,
that you
we met in
played?
person. What's that? Did I play
That,
your
that you
Dominic song?
played?
Yeah, yeah, you were
Mhm.
there, and you were just back in there, and they were all excited you were back for that particular night. You just like popped in out of nowhere, and so I think you popped in because there was a show going on, and they weren't doing too many regular shows at the time. It was
Mm,
had became a feature venue at that time. They weren't open regular hours or whatever, just for shows,
mhm.
and may still be that way. I don't know how it is now, but um, yeah. And I was there and doing a show, and then you popped in, and it was cool, and yeah,
Well,
the
awesome.
rest is
Well, it was really
history.
cool to have you back. I mean, after 10 years in Gailey's, did you get to eat any of the food?
I did. They made me some chicken strips and some waffle fries to go, and it
Nice.
was wonderful. They were a very accommodating venue. They were nice and just really on their game, like venues should be. Their
Yeah.
waiters were cool. Yeah.
And
So
you gave me one of those touch tune card. What is it?
tap
Tap
tune.
tune. Tap tune. I
Hmm.
found the other one that you gave me the last time I was up. I was gonna
Oh,
just
I did.
give it to
I
everybody.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You've got
people,
the
oh, I
you've
can't
got the
get it out of the.
collection.
There we go.
It
There.
disappears.
There it is. And that's really cool. Explain how this works.
Well, you take that and you just touch it to your phone, any phone that has NFC on it nowadays, which is like all the new Apple ones. Pretty much every Apple or new phone has it, but some of them you got to turn it on. It's like Bluetooth, only a little different.
Hmm.
And you just touch it, and then it reads the card. It opens up a proprietary player. You can play the album. You can download the album. As soon as you leave the screen, though, you have to have the card again to do it. It's a key. So
The
I
key.
guess yeah, the really the idea is like if you were a band and you wanted to have a physical product that you could sell at your shows, that's something fresh and new, that's not just the stuff that we've had out before. um you could have that, you could sell that, and if you didn't have the album anywhere else, it would be, you know what I mean, it's they would have to get it from you, and they would only own it. Now sure, they could resell it later. It has resellable value also because it has that access to that, but it's amazing, and you don't have to join any subscription, nothing. There's nothing else you pay. You just pay directly the artist. You buy it from them, and then they're housed on there.
Oh, that's
It's a
really
whole new
cool.
it's a whole new thing. It's sweeping the nation, man.
You could,
um
it could be,
I'm
it
not
ends
gonna
up being like a Rolodex.
yeah,
For
I'm
the,
not
for
gonna
the people that actually know what Rolodex are, you could do a Rolodex of
yeah.
music cards.
Yeah, well, they have them. They have albums. They fit right in like a baseball card
Really,
collector.
that's really
Yeah.
neat.
So the company actually has little binders that are like you would collect them like by baseball cards. And
Hmm.
I'm always telling people, like the local artists, you can't get an autographed digital release, right? It's impossible.
Right.
Well, maybe at this point, I guess you could get, there's new options for that, but still, you could sign the card for them. The band could sign the card, and they could have them all autographed, their albums, in their little book. they don't take up a lot of space and they're collectible, cool.
Well, you're
So
the
that,
first artist I've ever seen do this, so you're one up.
to my knowledge, I was the first artist in Missouri that was on Tap Tunes.
Oh, wow.
So there might have been something similar, an artist doing it with their business cards and stuff, but
Hmm.
it's not quite the same because that actually has, like, if you've seen the ones where people can tap and it goes to like their link tree and stuff, right?
Right.
What you do is you go to a website and then you go to their wherever they're going. So you end up listening to the song, on something wherever you would go or YouTube or whatever. This, however, has its own proprietary player that just instantly loads without it. You don't have to go to an app store and get it. It just you touch that card to it and it instantly loads this player and you can just push play and play. You saw how fast it happened last night.
Yeah.
You stick the card up there. And another thing about the NFC that's better about the connectivity, if you've ever scanned a QR code. Now, for older phones, you can flip that over. There is a QR code, get access to it, right? But however, with your phones, a lot of times I've had ones where I've scanned the QR code and I've hit it like 20 times to finally get into the link. Sometimes it's not the easiest of access. So
Hmm.
this, on the other hand, you touch the card, a little pop-up says, do you want this? And you hit it and you're in. So I feel like I guess again, the barrier to entry is the least amount of, problem, simplest.
Well, that's
And
really cool.
you wouldn't have to know how to read or anything to do that. So if you were like somebody who couldn't read, then they saw the picture, there's no, just tap
Yeah.
into your phone and you're in.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
not, not that I have a lot of, non-educated non-readers, but, it could be like international, somebody who
Hmm.
couldn't read them, English or whatever. They
Right.
still, hey, just tap into your card. So,
Right.
I think it's I guess where I was going with that, it's, it kind of beats all barriers of, everything. So it's really going to be a simplest just way to get your music as an independent artist out there and get it to people instantly and still be able to have a tangible some sort of souvenir item that goes along with it.
Well, I love
Instead
it.
of, it's not bad to sell a t-shirt, but you want a merch item that actually has music on it, that's
Yeah.
something new, something newer than and different than what we have in existence. So
Yeah. Well,
it,
I love it. Well, let's talk about your songs. I mean, the Cherry Alley, and then what's coming out today? The one that's coming out today.
well, yesterday it came out, Farmers Market released yesterday, and then tomorrow is the easy listening version of On Jefferson Highway, just in time for their international caravan thing again, their big annual event. So
Mhm.
they're always happy. Doug is making another song for us.
That's
So,
awesome.
I mean, I don't think there's a list of people waiting to make Jefferson Highway songs. We wish there was, but
And
not yet.
what inspired you to do it though?
The song?
Hmm.
Well, I mean, Jefferson Highway intersects the first two highways in America intersect at Nevada historically. So, the Atlantic Pacific and then what was the Jefferson Highway, right? And at the time, highways were a lot different than they weren't publicly funded like they are, now. So this was what they called the Good Roads movement. So we're talking like 1915, and not a lot of people even had cars, but however, the roads back then still needed to serve wagons. They were better for transportation with wagons or cars. It wasn't. And anyway, all a highway meant when you had this highway association is it meant that the road was basically privately taken care of in each municipality wherever it was, but it was reliable where you could travel it all year round. So it didn't get too muddy and these kind of things. Or if it did get muddy, local people serviced it because they didn't have, state highway funding and all that. So no, there was no like MoDOT taking care of your highways.
Hmm.
It was all privately funded, and it had to do with, businessmen were funding it and municipalities were funding it because they wanted people coming to their town. So it was all about, getting commerce to your town. So it was a different world back then. But anyway, this highway went through my hometown and I'd never heard of it. And I thought, wow, I was like, that's kind of interesting. I've never heard about this very iconic highway thing. First, it was the first international in America, was the second highway ever, but it went from Winnipeg to New Orleans. And anyway, I'd never heard of it. I lived in Nevada, my whole life, and I was like, why have I never heard of this? So I thought there needed to be some awareness raised about it because it's very historic and interesting. And the long story short, those highways predated the numbering system. So like Route 66 is so famous, but Route 66 was a later development in the highway system, and that was when it did become funded by the states and stuff. So that was the new system that updated that. So that old trail system disappeared in about 1925 is when it started to go over to the number system. So
Wow, that's a little history lesson. I never
there
knew
you
that.
go.
Never knew that.
Yeah, and funny thing is, Route 66 got so famous, basically because it was featured in movies and so many people traveled from Chicago to LA.
Hmm.
But there was a little section of the rail because Jefferson Highway was before that. However, it was north and south ultimately, not east and west. But for a minute, it kind of goes kind of east and west, in between Carthage and Joplin, Missouri, where Route 66 was there. That originally was the section of Jefferson Highway.
Oh,
So originally, so they share some parts of routes, because over the years routes change, a lot. So
yeah.
it was basically 54 highway was going to be what Route 66 became because again in the number system 54 came before 66. So they hadn't totally developed that yet. So it was originally going to go from Chicago to LA and then they changed it a little bit and then Route 66 got most of what it was going to do and then that one became iconic. So it's probably the most famous, old route. So
Huh. Well, now I will definitely look at that different next time I go on there.
sorry.
I
I
had no idea. I
I,
really
I
didn't.
I start dorking out a little bit when you ask me about this.
No,
I feel
I think
myself going
I
into
find it
nerd
very
mode.
interesting. I do find it very interesting. I always like to learn new things about Missouri because I'm not originally from here.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
always cool to learn something new.
yeah.
Um,
What's the see the Jefferson Highway Association? There's about 56,000 people that are interested in the highway in America. They're
mhm.
like they join the membership. They pay a membership of this thing, get the memos, the notes, and they do this international deal every year. And this year they're doing it in McAlester, Oklahoma, because it went through, historic Jefferson went through Oklahoma, and Oklahoma in the state of Oklahoma, statewide, the historic markers are there for Jefferson Highway. In Missouri, see, we don't have statewide markers yet. They're working on that. But
Mm.
next year they're going to have the international conference in Missouri somewhere. So
Oh.
hopefully they'll start getting on board because Iowa's got statewide markers. Oklahoma has them, but and um, Louisiana has a lot, but not statewide, but very big.
Hmm.
But there's not very much marking in Missouri for it.
Oh, interesting. So tell me about your other song, Farmers Market.
Farmers Market. It's about falling in love with a girl that's there, and she's gothic, by the way.
Yeah, I like
As
that
it,
picture that you
the
had.
pic, it doesn't say she's gothic in the song, but the picture indicates that. Anyway, the song's about this guy who thinks he can maybe catch her eye if he goes and buys produce from her at the farmers market. So, but in the end, he doesn't. They don't fall in love, so it gets by him. But he
Oh.
tries.
Oh. Ah. Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, it happens.
Well, that's cool. So, Found Space. How's Found Space going?
Well, found space. We've sort of put it on hold. The coffee shop is going to be moving to a new location, so they're going to have a little bit of downtime, and so we caught wind of that. And as it was coming on in summer, also summertime is really really challenging up here. So like, because everybody's traveling, everybody's if it's an outside event, they're doing it. But so
Hmm.
we also thought, yeah. So with that and with the changeover, we thought, well, we'll just wait until September and try to get things kicked back up in September on it. So kind of switched focus from that. As far as I guess that probably is your next question, but I'll go ahead and elaborate on it. So when we kind of shifted from that, or I say we, me, and what we do, um, we're shifting into doing this little mini festival on the parking lot, also on Jefferson Highway. Um, on the it's the Elite Fitness parking lot. That'll be September 11th. So we're just giving ourselves a little bit of time to kind of build it up and have a. It's all going to be original music featured, and then the after party will probably have a cover band over at the Legion. So anyway, just shifting focus, kind of getting on that, and let things the change get taken care of with the coffee shop, get them bounced back in, and then provided, I don't know the location yet, but depending on where they relocate to the new property, it may be different and it might be something that just won't work. Maybe, I don't know. I doubt that, but we'll just have to decide that kind of as that comes. And if it doesn't won't work out, well, well then when at that point we'll try to find somewhere else to house it or something.
So right
But
now,
I think,
everything is just on hold for the
yeah,
time
yeah,
being until more information.
yeah. But I think as far as it goes, it was going really, really well, and I think everybody's really on board to revive it. It's just, there's just some other stuff going on, and felt like it would be a good idea to just kind of, give it some time and to get all that worked out, get through the summer, and then come back with a bang.
Mhm.
So,
So, but in the meantime, can people still reach out to you to possibly get on that list from when
well,
you
yeah,
are ready?
yeah, definitely. And then I've got another bunch of developments going too. So, but yes, definitely stay in touch because we're trying to do that. And in the meantime, if something else pops up, we may like slide one of those shows somewhere else or something. Just so it's all just kind of month by month, case by case type situation, which isn't bad. It seems like it when you're like people like us, we're very organized, so to speak. With like we got to know that stuff's coming up and we have heads up and all that stuff. But I think for the general public, especially in a small town like Nevada, they're really not, if you notify them too much ahead anyway, they're not knowing what's happening. So I think the general consensus with the general public was just basically, they would see the announcement when they seen it pretty close within a week or two of the event. So we knew what we were doing, but the general public had no idea, that we really had artists ready to play all for 12 months. But they
Hmm.
didn't see that because we weren't telling them either necessarily. We said, it's going to be twice a month, but so they're just waiting for us to tell them when the next day is, just what's the
Hmm.
next one. So really it's just one by one anyway, for as far
Hmm.
as the general public view. So sometimes putting too much information out gets people confused a little bit too anyway. So
Yeah,
just so
yeah. It
much,
could only,
we're good.
there's so much information going on right now. So yeah, you just need to
Yeah.
make it to the point and
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
exactly. And I get to babbling about stuff too, but I feel that. But yeah, that's just kind of what we're doing with that. So, but it's all a good thing. Nothing bad about it, and it's all good. We're moving to the brighter side of things, and everything's going to
Mhm.
really just it gets messy sometimes, but really, like I said, the final destination is going to be good things. So it's all going in a good direction.
Well, wonderful, wonderful. Is there anything else going on this summer? Even your own plans? Are you gonna do anything fun?
Oh yeah, I'll do some fun stuff. Well, I've been talking with, and I'm not going to promise this, but
Mhm.
I've been, well, I got two things. I guess June 8th. Yeah, I don't know if this will air before then or not, but if it doesn't, my little three-piece band I put together is going to be playing again. Well, we didn't actually play there before it got rained out, but we did play. But we're playing on the parking lot of the farmers market for the Green Leaf Dispensary, June 8th. That's a Sunday, and we'll be there. We'll play at 3 o'clock, all originals. There's some other stuff going on from noon until 5, but we'll be there at 3 o'clock. So we got that coming up, or like I said, maybe that's happened. But and then just after summer, September 11th, that's kind of where we're shifting with the with where found space is kind of on hold. We're moving over to this what we're calling the Cherry Street Fusion Fest. And it's a festival fusion between, like arts, fashion, music kind of thing. Fashion being the boutique marketplace. They have a lot of, women's clothing and women's fashion in there. And then they're going to have 50 vendors on the parking lot. I think we're looking to have at least 5 trucks, food trucks, and then little stage and some bands, 2 or 3 bands, maybe more than that. That's September 11th, and that's a Thursday night. And so we're just going to put a lot of focus into that. All the bands that are playing are going to be original bands. They have music, on Spotify and stuff. We really want to embrace that. And they were already doing a second Thursday market, and so we're just going to jump on board with them for the one occasion, and everybody's just going to turn up the volume to 11. So more
Sounds like a
vendors than
lot of fun.
usual, more food than usual, and more music than usual.
Well,
So that
yeah,
should be
we plan on,
fun.
I plan on being there September 11th, have it down on my calendar. And did,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
um, the Legion, you said there was an after party, you
There
said?
will be there will be an after party. The Legion's already on board. They haven't booked to the band who's playing yet, but they're looking at several options. So
Mhm.
they're gonna pick somebody fun and have fun afterwards. And I was telling somebody the other day, I said, tell you what, no matter what happens when I do these events in Nevada, I was like, no matter what happens at the event itself, the after party is never a failure. It's always an off the top of the chain type success. So the after parties, I'm always like, I tell you what, the one thing is there will be excitement at the other after parties. So some of my best stories of like music shows always were like at the after parties of the events. Now the events will be
Yeah,
great.
you should
They'll
have
be
been
great,
there.
but it's amazing how many people that didn't actually show up for the event itself that they show
But
up
they
to
can
the
show up
after
at the
party.
after
Yeah,
party.
yeah. They're like, just I
They don't
guess they
want,
like
yeah, they
maybe
don't
they
want to
were
miss out.
watching from a distance. They
Fear
probably
of missing
drove by. Yeah.
out.
But hopefully this time, I mean, I'm not saying that some of the events I've done in the past, I'm as far as like I'll just be real with you guys. Like some of the artists that when you're promoting singer songwriter bands that are writing songs nobody knows of, it's challenging to get the fans connected, even if they do have a fan base. Sometimes getting all their fans from one town to the next can
Hmm.
be complicated, and so I've had some really great bands that just it just didn't sell well, but they were fantastic, they were on tour or whatever, so sometimes I've done these sort of events like that. So if you've been around Nevada, you've seen me, you've watched Doug fail a few times, but it
Oh, we all
wasn't
fail.
yeah, it had
We need
nothing
to do that. That's the only
to
way we learn, right?
that's right, it had nothing to do with the caliber of entertainment, and that's I think one of the things I was hoping to be able to. We've never really had an opportunity in Nevada to kind of show them um, you know, a really good highlight on more than one. It's a showcase of bands. There's more than one. There's, a stage where you're not, I guess you're not, you're not the second deal. It's like you get your band, you'll play a festival, you get to play a 30-minute set, you open up for somebody that's well known and you have a good crowd out there that day, right? But they're really not there to see the opening act. They're there to see you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
all of my experience just looking out and seeing how that the not just the industry, so to speak, but just how the culture is treating these original bands that are the future of music. They're getting kind of putting on the back burner because they're the opener and all this. So what we really wanted to do is influence the thing to saying, hey, this is the stage, the main stage. That is, these are the artists, these are the point. You know what I mean? Because if you never really flip that switch as a again as a culture, as a society, whatever's happening in the world, if you never start to flip that, and it starts with us as musicians and songwriters and all this, we have to really sometimes honestly we just don't take ourselves serious as we should. We're like,
Hmm.
okay. And so it's like, no, man, we don't want to open up for the bands. You're not an opening act. You're the show. And so I don't think in my entire career, I don't think I've ever really, I've saw some things where like Spencer's stuff where he was doing like bashing the grass and things like that. I've seen him do that sort of thing. And that's very inspiring, but we've never really done that in Nevada. The closest thing we had was, last year we did a big thing at the college that was called the Songwriter Bowl, and each songwriter came out and played a couple songs, and it was in one of the really nice recital hall type situations. So it was very prestigious, so to speak. The artists that were playing were very excited that they got to play that room because that's kind of cool too. Um, and so that was awesome. But again, it was just two songs and it was acoustic. It wasn't full bands and stuff. And this, however, is going to be probably at least three bands, all original. We're going to be trying to get people excited about their music before the day, and then we'll surround it with a lot of other activities to do. So it should be really cool.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Lots of things going on up there.
Yeah.
And your album. So for everybody to find it, they could go where?
So the full album, yeah, the full album came out a couple of months ago. It's called Red Cherry Tragedy. It is available on tap cards, but you have to
Mhm.
buy those at a show at this point, or you can get them at the boutique marketplace in Nevada. But um, if you're not in Nevada, you can't buy them on the
You-
internet or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, so
It's cool.
no
It's
pay
cooler
for
to
it.
have the tap cards though. I like
Yeah,
the tap
yeah,
cards.
they really are. I mean, you can buy tap cards off the internet and just
Yeah.
not. You can buy one of mine through Tap Tunes directly,
But you
but not
can't get
the
it
Red Cherry Alley.
autographed.
Yeah. So yeah, the really that's really what the vibe is. Those are to sell at the shows. And then I have CDs for Red Cherry Alley, but again, I'm just selling them at shows too. And I have some other random products, but so really iTunes, Spotify, all those great places to get the digital one. You can listen to it on Bandcamp as well. Um I think it's on the free part of Bandcamp. I have a subscription based Bandcamp, but you can listen to some things for free,
Hmm.
and then you can get more if you subscribe for $5. But I believe you can listen to Rich Cherry Alley on there, and it's on YouTube. Just the stock like album cover art videos type thing. So, but it's going really well. It's been exciting. The big number off that one is "Why Did You Ghost Me Like That?" or like, yeah, "Ghost Me Like That." I can't get my song titles right. But that was a song I've had for a while, but we did a pop version of it on there. It's a really good version, and it's a really good, like, as far as my music when I study like what people are interested in. As far as that song is my best song in regards to the amount of people that listen to it and the amount of times that they reoccurrently, listen to it again. So it's a song that goes to lots of people more than any of my other songs, and those people listen to it more than they listen to any other song. So some of the other songs have had more like bigger numbers in some instances, but it would be like say like it was just like very few people listening to it a lot of times, right?
Hmm.
Or then you got other ones that got like very few plays, and it's like only a few people and they only listen to it like once, right? They don't reoccur.
Hmm.
But this song, why did you ghost me like that, is the one that lots of people, and they continue to get new people every day listening to that song, and those people always listen to it more than what I mean, a lot of times.
Wow, that's really exciting to have,
There you go.
your audience obviously connect to with
Yeah.
you, because they
Hmm.
relate. They relate because otherwise they
And
would
here,
listen to the song over
yeah,
and over and over again.
and here's a fun one for you too. It's not as popular with women. I guess guys get ghosted more than girls do.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
wonder what the science is behind that. This is
Yeah, I was like, wow. I was like, why are more guys are listening to my music? No, more guys are listening to that song.
that specific song because they're getting ghosted.
Yeah. And I think it was like about like it was 48%, I think, women that listened to it.
Hmm.
So, that's a lot of guys.
They're feeling like they're ghosted.
Yeah,
They're feeling like they're ghosted. Well,
they
that's
can relate.
bad.
And I maybe need to make a t-shirt that goes along with it or something. It's like,
That would be
but
cool too.
I
Don't
don't I
ghost
don't
me,
know what it
bro.
would say. Yeah. um, I live this sheltered life. Please don't ghost me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fun stuff. I mean, that's a lot of great stuff going on. You're always coming up with some really awesome ideas, and I really appreciate that because you throw them my way, and I'm like, man, if more people could do this, or just see stuff from a wider lens, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I get really I this week, well, we'll talk about that real fast, and then
Hmm.
I don't want to it's kind of weird. And I'm just be like I said, you may edit this or whatever. But it's like I'm to the point where I've been like a music person for a long, long time, to where now it's like, because sometimes you don't want to tell things, especially in a public interview. There's just some things you just don't really want to tell people. And then some people kind of guess what's kind of going on, but at the same time they don't know 100%, right? So there's still that little mystery. And as an artist, you got to kind of have a little bit of mystery to be interesting to people, right?
Hmm.
You don't want to just tell them everything. But the older I get and the longer I've been in it, I get to where I'm more just like, well, whatever, just let it out. It is what it is, kind of thing, right? And
Hmm.
So in some instances, that's good. So I guess where I'm going with this is I'll go to the next subject and we'll talk about this. And this is great because um so I made this movie which was based on okay, so I have a podcast that's called Lunch with Doug, right?
Hmm.
Lunch with Doug. As far as the podcast, I've done hundreds of different branded items, right? But that podcast, Lunch with Doug, has been one of my best successes. Like it does really, really good. So as far as consistently succeeding and consistently being a good, valid product, it's a workhorse. It works, right? And I think what I found out, what I figured out about it is I think the brand was very non-threatening. It was like it's with Doug, right? So it's lunch with Doug, right? That's very non-threatening, right? There's no okay, I get it. It's just it basically spells it out. I hit that. It just spells it out for you, you know. And so I think that's what it was. It was like okay, um, so people just embraced it, you know. And so as that developed, now I'm moving into where I want to do because originally it was videos, but that was just as you know, it was tons of work to make videos. Like you got a 20-minute episode, it takes you like freaking 12 hours to produce it. It
Hmm.
was unreal. And so I couldn't do it with a full-time job. And I was like, I still want to do it, but I'm an audio guy and a old radio guy. So I was like, I can produce radio shows a lot faster than I can produce video shows. And then my distribution can be better because it was at a time when that was at the right there at the right moment. And it was like where everybody all of a sudden wanted audio podcasts again for just a minute or whatever. So I jumped on that wagon and the distribution was fantastic. And I was like, okay, great. It's, you know, I can produce this thing better. My sponsorships, I make enough sponsorship money now. It actually makes sense because you can have sponsors and then, but takes all that time and you're not making any money, you know? So
Hmm.
it's better to have like, you know, something that you can produce quickly. And anyway, okay, that's a lot of words. But so then I want to make video content again with it, right? So I'm like, okay, but I'm like, really, and it's not that I won't do those things, but it's just like there's where the fun part is. Like you guys got a you know you got a YouTube page, you got a Patreon page, and you guys are trying to do this right, and trying to make it work, and it is working really. But so what I'm like, well, I'm a guy that's like not making like I want to make content right, but I'm
Yeah.
not really like putting out the content, video content like you guys are. You guys are pumping out video content. So I'm like, I got to come up with something where that it can be that, and then we go back to that barrier of entrance where it can be easy entrance where they don't got to like pay a bunch of money or they don't have to share their all their personal information to you. Like I hate it when you got to put your email in, you got to basically like wink in the camera so you get dry print, you know, all this two part. I mean, they ask for a lot of information from you. Like, I just want to try your service. You haven't even I don't even know who you are yet, and I want to try
Yeah.
your service, and you're asking me all this stuff.
All
Like
these
I'm like,
personal questions, and I don't even know you yet.
and it's like, what was your first car? What's your mother's maiden name? I'm like, seriously? Like, imagine joining a new like app if you were on a date. Imagine that. You know, they're like, oh, so like that's like too many questions. The first date questions are not that complicated. But anyway, so you know, I was like, okay, so it has to be something that they can just, you know, get into or something that just falls in their lap. So I set up this video stream that's 24/7. So I got this video stream 24/7, but I'm not going to produce 24 hours of content every day, right? Crazy.
Mhm.
Well, then you just say, you back up and you say, okay, I'm a distributor of video content. So you become a distributor, right? You have a channel that's a channel that distributes multiple people, not just you. But I
Mhm.
branded it with Doug. So then anything can be with Doug, you know? So it can be,
Yeah. So on the
you
scene
know,
with Doug or
yeah.
whatever it is.
And you know, so that's happening and I'm really excited about it. And so where I was going with all this was that that's where that new, you know, the new content will be and I guess also we were talking about the transparency and the transparency is I'm playing this movie on there that nobody saw before. I put it on YouTube, you know, but nobody saw it, you know, and I couldn't at the time I couldn't really afford into investing in making my own product, you know, and all that and having DVDs. And even if I did, then you'd have to sell them, blah, 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 right? So I just kind of made it and was like, here it is, and it's on YouTube. And 6 parts, 44 people probably watched it. Okay. And I mean, I poured my heart into it. I was like the most transparent I'd ever been. And the best way, like when I was talking about stuff, I felt like I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was like being like, oh, I'm great, because when you're like kind of promoting yourself, you as a an artist, you kind of sometimes come off like you're like you think you're better than other people, you're like, my music is amazing and I'm kick ass, but you kind of get in that fold because really most of the time it's not that people are saying like you're terrible or whatever, but nobody's really saying you're good either. So there's nobody that's doing either one for you. And you just are
Hmm.
like, if I'm going to do this, I gotta,
You
I
have to
gotta do
hype
it. And
yourself up
yeah,
and
you
not
become
care
your,
that other people are thinking that you're
yeah,
doing the
you
other
can't,
way. When it's like, I'm not. I'm just.
I'm just like, I told this guy one time I was trying to sell him a sponsorship and I told him, I said something about, I want you to be a sponsor on this amazing podcast, and he's just like, you just said your own podcast is amazing. Like, like he was just really thrown off by that. I was like, well, yeah, what do you want me to tell you? My podcast sucks. I mean,
I want you to be a
I
guest on the sucky podcast. Yeah.
and then I had another friend that told me this, and because she was like, really against that kind of like self promoting yourself, right? And then she
Hmm.
said, she came to me years later and she goes, you know what? She goes, the reason I don't have a record label in Nashville is because, I didn't do what you do. Like I would just tell them to, listen to it and you decide whether you like whether it's good or not. She's like, I always just let them. And she's like, no, the people that are getting record deals are like, yeah, my music's awesome. And they're like, you got here's the president of MCA Records. So why would we sign you? Well,
Hmm.
listen and tell me what you think. No, he's being sold right now. So you got to sell it to him. You're like, listen, this has got the best waltz ever.
You need to make
Country
the
Music
decision for
America.
him.
Yeah, yeah. You can't like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're not gonna go there. And the reason they don't, it's not that they because this is a different, different world there. So they throw us down the trail that has been unpathed. You can't see it. The 3 trails in life. There's the one that you can see that's the easy one, right? And then there's the one that you can see that's kind of a little harder, but still established. And then you go down the arts path and you can't see it. There's no trail. There's a bunch of bushes. They give you a little knife and they're like, here you go into the Amazon, Doug. Cut your path out. And so you're, what do I do here? I'm cutting these trees and I'm awesome at it. Because I'm doing it all the time. I wake up. I can't, So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but that you have to be, you have to really, really do have to put it out there and you really have to. So the same thing. Here's this guy. They're like, oh, Doug's guys don't like 24/7 thing. He thinks he's great, doesn't he? He's putting his movie out there, Well, one, no one else has put my movie out there. Two, it actually has something really heartfelt to say. And so I'm like, but then immediately, like the next day, somebody had listened to my music for the first time because it fell in their lap on this easy thing. And I'm like, yeah, so it works, is what it is. So, so yeah. But all that said, we're gonna pick up where MTV left off. We're gonna be a nationwide type thing that
Heck
maybe your
yeah, I
name,
want my MTV. I mean, it even says it on the
yeah, yeah,
back. Well, I can't show it.
you
It says
know,
it on the back, people. I swear. There we go. See, I
and
want my
yeah, yeah,
MTV.
and we all do, and then MTV like totally changed what they did. So
Hmm.
in a nutshell, I
And
mean, we're
it's
not.
missing, you know? This other
Yes,
generation has no idea what they
yeah,
missed
they
out on.
they don't know what artists look like. They don't know the
Mhm.
insides. And there's like that's the thing about you and your show. Like nobody else is doing that. I don't even care. I mean, I'm sure there's something somewhere in America, but not really. Not anything that's making any kind of waves at all. So like you're like this, you're like this unicorn company down there. And once, you guys go and more people, you should be, on the scene will be like, they'll be LA will be like, yeah, we're on
Mhm.
the scene because who the hell else is doing anything? Even in LA, they're doing stuff, but not really,
I
so
I mean here with on the scene we want to show the people that like we're just all the same and we just want
yeah.
to help each other out and this stuff is out there and let's Let's not make it a uniform type of thing, like how news channels are, how it's a
Hmm.
different kind of feel. If you're talking to a news reporter, then you would be talking to us,
Yeah, yeah,
because
exactly.
we want to make it as comfortable and, as relaxed as possible.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about you too. I feel like because you're music related too, I feel like I can say things on your show that I like if I was on the regular radio station or the regular TV show, I would say none of these things, you know. But it's like, but they need to be
Mind your
said,
P's and Q's.
yeah. So like it's like you go on the scene and you can say whatever. And that's what they need. People need that and they don't have that. There's no access to it. It's all this like, oh yeah, the music industry's so great and Taylor Swift is happy. No, everybody's not like Taylor Swift. No, we can't all afford to buy our masters back. I mean, no, you know, it's like, you know how much money she paid for that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how they get their masters back. They make you got to be rich. You got to succeed. And then the company's like, well, we've made a lot, but they'll still sell her songs forever because
Yeah.
when they buy the masters back, they don't buy the sound recording that that those record labels put out. So those record labels, that's the one thing they don't sell. And they're like, I don't care. It's kind of like buying the cow that you milked for the milk. You
Hmm.
buy the cow back, but the company they can make milk from. There's lots of cows to make milk. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, but they've already got the milk from the cow, and you buy it. They got what they needed already, so it's done. That's a weird analogy, but
Well, on that, I am so excited for all these cool things that you have in the works. And I mean, I'm happy to be part of it too. So thank you for having us along. And but we're going to let our audience go to be ready for next time for our next monthly update with you. But it
okay.
has been fun. Again, your show the other night was so much fun. I'm so glad you're down here. I hope you get down here sooner again before 10 years. I mean, I'll have you back on my show, of course, but playing out and about.
Yeah, we'll do it. Hopefully, I'll message them. Hopefully, I can get back down there to the Galeys like in within 3 months
Or
or
try one
so.
of the other bars too. I mean, there's lots of different ones that do like original music. So,
Yeah.
and that's
Well,
what is important is we need more original music.
yeah, that's what I think. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's just
Not
I don't
regurgitate the
know.
same stuff over and over again.
Yeah, it's just when I go, I just am so excited to see something that I've never heard before, or
Yeah,
something a little different. I'm like, it's
it's
cool.
very, very exciting. Well, thank you, Doug, again, and thank you for everybody out there that always tune in every month to watch these and make sure to make it up there to Nevada because it's a pretty cool place. The one time I went up there, I'm like, wow, okay, this is different than Springfield, but I love it. I love it so much. So we will be up there again at some point. But until next time, guys, make sure to stay safe and come join us out on the scene.